This one is from iPhone. Assuming you win the primary, will you remain this progressive when challenging Hogan in the general election? If you will, how do you intend to stay progressive during the election, potentially as governor? I have friends like Jimmy Tarlow who will haunt me in my sleep if I ever stray and wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure, just to cuss me out. No, look, guys, I will stay close to our values because I'll stay close to us. I've been a movement person my whole life, and am surrounded by movement people, and also surrounded by Black women activists, from my daughter who's 11 to my grandma who's 100, who have high standards for the sort of policies that I will push through. In each case, I'll be held accountable publicly and privately. My grandma worked for Planned Parenthood in Baltimore in 1940, and she's sharp as a tack. Barbara Mikulski was her office mate's intern. And I talk to her every week, and she holds me accountable. So that's how I'll be held accountable, both through our movement organizations, through voters, and through personal relationships, both for friends and family, who are very invested in me leading in the way that we know our leaders need to lead if our families are going to move forward. As far as I don't know how to zigzag in politics. I've been consistent my entire life in fighting for justice, economic justice, social justice, inclusion, opportunity for all. I've been a movement leader, and I've got a track record that goes all the way back to my college days. When I got kicked out of school for fighting for student aid and fighting against environmental racism. 2 protests ended up adding up to me being among the first students suspended from Columbia University for their politics since the 1970s. We were kicked out about 20 years later. And so I've always kind of been the same guy. I'll always be the same guy. One of the things that convinced me to run was I sat down with a pollster who'd been a pollster for O'Malley, who'd been a pollster for Schmoke, he'd been a pollster for Van Hollen, folks, quite frankly, more mainstream than me, but really sought me out because he believes in our message. He would like to see folks move towards our politics. And he said, look, I think you have the best shot. And I said, okay, great. Why? He said, well, because you can be disruptive in the primary and you can be inspirational in the general. And I said, okay, but connect those dots. How do I have to run to be both? And he said, brother, just run to the left and keep running to the left. He said, in the general, you'll consolidate the activists and you'll win. In the primary, you'll consolidate the activists and you'll win. In the general, you'll activate new constituencies who typically don't vote in the midterms, and you'll win them too. And Donald Trump will build a firewall. Hogan's already getting rapidly less popular with voters. His would you vote for him numbers down to 41, floats about 25% below his do you like him number. And anonymous Democrats up to 37. So I'm confident, both because of what's in my gut and because occasionally you get sort of affirmations from folks who kind of invested in things like polling, that we can do this by just being ourselves, by being full-throated progressives who are on fire for defending civil rights, on fire for defending our environment, and on fire for ending poverty and expanding economic opportunity. And that's how I'll run. I don't see any more text questions.
Let me follow up on that, Ben.
Sure.
If you look at an electoral map of Maryland, there's a handful of blue counties.
Yeah.
And a lot of red counties.
Yes.
What Bernie stands for, and he showed an ability, though, to go into those red counties.
Yeah.
And talk with people and win them over.
Yep.
Can you give us an example of how you can do that in Maryland?
Yep.
This goes to the heart of not smoothing out your progressive message.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. No. Look, somebody asked me the other day if I'm running to the left, and I said, look, I'm running towards the people. Sometimes when you talk left and right, you sort of disown people, right? Because they see themselves on the right, even though if you listen to them, they're concerned about what you're concerned And I really believe that the most important divide in our country is between politicians who serve corporations and politicians who fight for the people. And I aspire to be the latter, because when I was a civil rights organizer and community organizer, that's what I've always done. When you do that, it's surprising what happens. I've made, just in the last about half dozen weeks, a half dozen trips to the Eastern Shore and a half dozen trips to Western Maryland. Been out in Garrett County the other night and was talking about single payer. And there were folks who had voted for Trump or not voted who were very clear that they would vote for me. One of the things that emboldened me is I've been out on Eastern Shore a week earlier, and there was a Trump voter, maybe 2 weeks earlier, two trips ago to Eastern Shore, and there was a Trump voter who presented the way a Trump voter might at one of my meetings, right? A real poker face. He raised his hand. "Hi, Ben, I need to let you know I voted for Trump." I said, "All right, good to meet you, sir." He said, "What do you think of Trump voters?" I said, "Well, I don't think you all are crazy. I think you could have made a better decision, but I don't think that you're crazy, just like I don't think voters who didn't vote are lazy. The polls will tell you both sets, people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, people who voted for Obama and then didn't vote, felt betrayed in the economy. It's a rational decision. I may disagree with it, but it's a rational decision." He said, "Okay." So, "Well, now we established that." He said, "I have one question for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Do you support single payer?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, then I'll vote for you and I'll organize other Trump voters too." I spent my whole life on a bridge. My father comes from northern New England. His family's lived there for hundreds of years. His brother, my favorite uncle, runs a lumber yard. I called him on election day. He didn't know if he said he didn't know if he was voting for Bernie or Trump. I knew that meant he was leaning towards Trump, because if he knew he was leaning towards Bernie, he would have said that to me. So I cussed him out. And then we had a real conversation about his frustration, what he sees running his lumber yard, and the fact that we need to get back to making things in this country again. And we need to get beyond the bad trade deals, and we need to really make it possible for men like him to feel like they're men again. And the other end of that bridge is in West Baltimore. And when I listen to my great uncles, 90 years old, or my cousins, you hear the same thing. Bethlehem Steel didn't just abandon South Baltimore and Dundalk, it abandoned us too. And so it's that sort of basic kind of the core convictions that come from that shared experience. I was talking to a young man today in West Baltimore who had buried 10 friends in the last year. And I was talking to a young white girl who came from tennis camp on the Eastern Shore 2 weeks ago who had buried 3 classmates in the last year. One, young people involved in the drug trade, the other young people addicted to opioids and heroin. And before that, it was a young Arab American, Muslim American professional who had just buried 2 honor students in Montgomery Village who had been riddled with 20 bullets. There's more that unites us than divides us in the state. And if we just talk about what our families need, a better future, how we get there in very practical terms, we can unite a lot of people who are yearning to feel united but haven't been for a very long time.